Alright. Hi everyone. Please excuse the use of a synthetic voice, but I am currently in a noisy environment and I can't record my own voice. This will have to do. I wanted to show you my new lightweight template. My main template is a little bit above 5,000 tracks and sometimes it is a bit too unwieldy. So, since I've got the Spitfire BBC Symphony Orchestra and its core edition, I built a lighter template. Let's have a look at it. First off, I'm using Vienna Ensemble Pro to host my instruments. It helps with keeping everything loaded and being able to switch quickly between projects. In this case, I'm running it on the same machine, but I also have a version of it on a slave computer. There is one instance per family of instruments and I try to group the patches by vendors. Inside each instance, I have one cell for each section, and within each cell, I use multis that I can control using Cubase expression maps. Back in Cubase, I use two mix consoles. One shows the groups. The other one shows the individual instruments. Because I have already done the balancing within Vienna Ensemble Pro, each fader is at unity at 0 dB. Each instrument is routed to its respective bus, keys, strings, woodwinds and so on. On each of the section buses, I have an instance of a convolution reverb as an insert. In this case, spaces 2 from east-west. I use the digital Hollywood Hall to override the early reflections from each sample library vendors and give it a lush cinematic sound. I also have a second convolution in a disabled state in case I need a more intimate sound. For this, I use the Hollywood scoring stage. Then, each section bus has a send to a tail reverb that helps me glue everything together. I use VSS3 for that. I also do an aggressive EQ cut on the tail reverb in order not to create too much build-up. Finally, I enlarge the stereo field of the tail a little bit because I like lush sounding cues. Everything is then routed to 3 buses: sum, mix, and master. I don't really use them, but they let me do a rough mix in case I need to preview a cue to someone. I normally don't mix within my compassing project, but I have some handy plugins in a disabled state, ready to go. Because I don't need to see the buses while I'm writing, I hide them in the second panel at the top of the sequencer. That's also where the Vienna Ensemble Pro VST plugins live. Even though each instrument comes from Vienna Ensemble Pro, I keep a copy of each patch in a disabled state as well. This way, I can quickly transform my project into a self-contained one in order to archive it or share it with someone who doesn't use Vienna Ensemble Pro. At the very top of my sequencer, I have some utility tracks such as a ruler showing the timecode, the tempo track, signature and the marker track to quickly delimit cues. I also like to start writing at bar 51, which I have set to be a timecode 0. This way, I can quickly add things before my cue starts or use the 51st bars as a sketching area. My template is then divided into 2 main sections: sketch and track. The sketch section is where I have my sketching piano patches and a chord track. I also have a bunch of useful VST plugins to help me compose. I am not the best when it comes to music theory, so I'm using things like the Scalar plugin as part of my sketching section. The deflationian augmented double harmonic scale is not something I could summon from the top of my head, for example. For sketching a quick strings harmony, I have an ensemble strings patch. In this case, Spitfire Albion 1. For melody, I like to play around with a horn section. Here, I use the one from Sonu Score the orchestra. It doesn't sound really good, but it is very playable. At the bottom, I have a few empty contact instances that are already routed to the sketch bus. I can load a patch quickly and experiment with it as needed. Last in the sketching section, I have 6 empty MIDI tracks that I use as placeholders to copy MIDI informations. It could be notes or CC data that I want to replicate on more than one track. And this is it for the sketch section. The track section is where the music gets actually written. There's a subsection per group of instruments: pianos, strings, woodwinds, brass, choirs, percussion, tuned percussion, synths and special effects. For the piano, my go-to instrument is the Grandeur by Native Instruments. I absolutely love this piano, especially its deep grandeur preset. I also have the option to use a soft felt piano. My third go-to piano is Ascend from Heaviosity. I use it when I need a brighter tone. The strings come from the BBC Symphony Orchestra. I've created a divisi for each section as well, by using the transposing trick. In the strings, I use 2 soloists, a violin and a cello. The violin is Simple Violin by Fluffy Audio, and the cello is a combination of Tina Guo 1 and 2 from Cinesamples. Let's have a look at the woodwinds. Most of the solo woodwinds are from the BBC Symphony Orchestra. As I only have the core version of the BBC SO, I added the missing woodwind instruments from Spitfire Studio Woodwinds Professional. I used the different microphone positions to balance them with the BBC Symphony Orchestra. The room information mostly comes from my digital Hollywood whole reverb anyway, so the library matching is easily done. The Ensemble Woodwind patches are also taken from the BBC SO. For the brass, I again use the BBC Symphony Orchestra. I know that they don't get a lot of love from the compassing community, but quite frankly, their tone matches what I need them to do. I wouldn't use them for the epic superhero movie trailer genre, but again, that's not what they are meant for in the first place. But if I need brass with some balls, I'm also covered by the ones found in Metropolis Arc 1 by Orchestral Tools. The same goes for the low brass. I was using Albion Asceni a lot for that, but I found it hard to balance with my template. Metropolis Arc does that just fine. My choirs are also from Metropolis Arc 1 and 2. They are in a league of their own, and so far, they are my favorite choir patches. For the percussion, I didn't include any epic percussion. Just some good old Western orchestral percussion. And yes, that is from BBCSO as well. Because percussion is changing from project to project, it would be impossible to template everything that I have, so I keep a disabled empty contact patch at the bottom that I can duplicate and load with what I need. Of course, it is already routed as well. What about the tuned percussion? BBCSO as well. Simple as that. There are cases where I miss some bottom end. This is not always due to orchestration choices. Sometimes, I like to layer a sub-synth to make my track sound more modern. For this, I use one of the sub-synth from Albion Asceni. The last section is dedicated to special effects. Again, it would be impossible to template everything that I have, so I go with the pre-routed patchway once again. At bar 1 of my template, each patch has a default event where I can set the starting value for CC1, expression, vibrato and so on. My template is also built around expression maps to control articulation switching. For example here, my first violins start with a CC1 value of 100 and a CC11 value of 127. There is a setup event like this one for nearly each instrument. Lastly, let's talk briefly about numbers. Each contact patch is purged, so they take a lot less memory. Unfortunately, the BBCSO player can't be purged the same way. With each instrument loaded, the Ensemble Pro reports 22 GB of used memory. Cubase reports about 3 GB used. That is a total of 25 GB, and it would definitely work well with a portable setup, having 32 GB of memory. Of course, if I had less RAM, I could absolutely disable instances within the Ensemble Pro and only activate them when I need them. That's it for this quick walkthrough of my new template. If you have comments, questions, or suggestions, please leave a comment. Happy compassing, everyone.